Hapaday, Tero, and welcome to Marianas Stories. I'm Catherine Perry, and this is where we chat with ordinary people with extraordinary stories in our community. And, I would say most of us love a great play, and our guest today is one of the few people from the Marianas who is actually crafting stories about this place and this culture as a playwright. That's Andrew Roberto. Welcome.
Buenas. Hapaday.
Hapaday, welcome to these ruins. People may be wondering why we're here, and you're going to explain that. But maybe you could start us off with telling us how you first got interested in writing plays. How did this happen?
Yeah, okay. Let me do a quick introduction. My name's Andrew. If you don't know who I am, I used to work at the Humanities Council. I've worn a lot of hats in my life. But once upon a time, I was living in Guam. I was a college student at the University of Guam, and before I moved there, when I was still in high school at Saipan Southern High School, I always wanted to be in a play, but there were not too many opportunities. We have a community theater program, Friends of the Arts, Friends of the Arts, and at that time I just wasn't connected to them, and so I wasn't able to get into any auditions. I barely saw plays. I wasn't attending Mount Carmel School at the time. Mount Carmel School has a
great theater program.
They do, they really do. And I just wasn't connected to these. I didn't have the in-way. But when I moved to UOG, one of the things that I said I would do is get into a play, get into a theater class. And because I was an English major, or I am an English major, and I graduated with a degree in English, I said, okay, let's try our hand at playwriting. One of the first things I did was I took a intro to theater class with Michelle Bloss. Wonderful woman. Michelle Bloss, if you're out there later on when I retweet this, I love you, Michelle. Wherever you are in this world, you rock. Thank you. Really, she's there's a whole generation of UOG theater alumni who owe so much to what Michelle did for them. And she has this wonderful passion. And I took her class. I loved it. And I got a little bit of a bug, right? I auditioned for my first role in a play.
What was the play? Do you remember?
I would prefer to forget that first one. God.
Okay. Look it up. That's the one we want to know about. No, it's called
Waiting for John. Waiting for John. And if Marilyn Weber, my partner, if she's there watching this live, sorry, babe. She was in the play too.
Okay.
Funny enough, that's exactly where I met my partner. So I owe a lot to theater. We can get into that later. But after I did the first play where I was on stage, I was like, okay, we're writing essays all day, and that can be fulfilling, but I want something creative. So I moved into a playwriting class with another woman who changed my life. Her name's Tali Ariev. She was a professor at the time, and she became one of my greatest writing mentors. She introduced me to writing for the stage. And of all the different parts of theater that there are that you can go into, I found that playwriting is where I'm the most called to do, or it's the one
at
that brings
home?
me. Yeah. Playwriting is my home, I guess, is what of all the things. Because theater, there's a job for everyone in theater. People think that theater is just actors on a stage, but when you get to the stage, by that point, you only see the tip of the iceberg.
True.
You don't see the pre-production meetings that take place with all the creators ahead of time, and the actors aren't even involved at that point. You don't see any of the auditions. Audition night is crazy. You don't see any of the rehearsals. You don't see Hell Week. Hell Week is the last week of a show, last week of rehearsal, right before tech, and we're all going nuts. We're all losing our minds because, it always feels like no matter how prepared you are for a play to hit the stage, something's going wrong. Some light is not working on your stage, right? Your actors are messing up a particular scene. Maybe somebody in the crew is fighting. Maybe
somebody got sick.
Yeah, somebody gets sick. It's like that. That's what Hell Week is, and you're also stressed, right? It's I guess it's like the birth, right? You're giving birth, and then when you hit the stage, that's the baby. Everybody's happy for the baby. Nobody sees the birth and the pregnancy, you know?
Speaking of baby, I can imagine that writing a play is kind of like having a child. How have you felt when it comes out on the other side? It's now in the hands of other people. Have you been satisfied with the way your plays have been staged?
Oh, yeah. So all my plays have been staged at my alma mater, pretty much.
UOG,
at the University of Guam, right? So I wrote them while I was a University of Guam student. They were produced by the University of Guam, directed by students from the University of Guam who are my friends, and acted by mostly UOG students, but some community members as well. Mm-hmm. So I was connected to all the creators on the way over to making this thing done. Mm-hmm. And was it like a baby? I don't think so. No, not really. I have kids. So.
Easier to write a play.
Yeah, more fun to make a kid. Just kidding. Leo, don't get mad at me.
So we're here at the jail because the first play you wrote is actually set in a place similar to this, mm-hmm. Finding Doni.
Picking Doni.
Picking Doni
is the
hot pepper.
Doni
Doni is hot pepper. Tell us about the setting of this play, how it relates to your personal life, cool. And what the play is about.
So Picking Doni is this supposed to be a 10-minute play, but it winds up when you produce it, it looks more like a one-act, and there are different kinds of plays. There's like a 10-minute play, a one-act play, a full play, and then different things, right? So this is supposed to be done in 10 to 30 minutes of a play, and it's set on Saipan, in the jungles of Aslitu.
Where you grew up?
Where I grew up. I grew up in Aslitu as a child. And as a child, I used to play in the jungle, and I literally used to pick Doni. But this play is not about me exactly. Although the kid has my name, AD, right? It's my childhood name, but this is not. This is in no way.
Disclaimer.
Yeah,
Picking Doni is not about.
I mean, it's like it's written close to my life, but it's fictional.
Okay.
Totally. It's completely fictional.
Right.
And it's about this young boy who goes into the jungle with his family to pick Doni. His dad, his uncle, his cousin, and they go to pick Doni, and they're not having a good go of it, right? Like they can't find any. And the little boy in the play, AD, is afraid because he's young and he doesn't want to be left alone in the jungle. But he does wind up alone in the jungle, and then he sees this mysterious old man. And we're here today at the old Japanese jail because the play Picking Doni takes place in the ruins of an old Japanese building. And the reason that I wrote all of these things and I made it close to my own life is because of what my mentor, Tali Aryav, told me, is that if something is real to the author, it becomes real to the reader.
Audience,
Real to the audience, right? If it's real to the author, it's real to the audience.
And that's a great point, by the way.
If it's fake to you, it comes across, right? It's not going to translate. And theater is all about being real and real human experience, Mm-hmm. It's appropriate that we're being interviewed on the Humanities Council show, right? On the Humanities Council show, because the Northern Marianas Humanities Council is dedicated to providing navigating the human experience of the different indigenous and varied cultures of the Marianas. And that's so theater, the art of theater is not contained just in the stage, just in the proscenium. Proscenium is the archway of a stage, right? And then the stage is everything on that. That's not exactly the art. The art is not just the direction. The art is not just the stage itself or the lighting. The real art of theater occurs when, as one group of human beings, that audience is looking on stage, and then they recognize within themselves some humanity that is within the characters, and they recognize within themselves a conflict that is ongoing on stage. That conflict is also ongoing in themselves, and as one audience we all hold our breath. As one audience we all laugh together. As one audience we all have real emotion. And so Tali said, If it's real to you, it's real to them. And if it's not real, then there's no theater. If it doesn't impact your audience, it's not theater. That's not theater, because the art is my people. But the art is the emotion of my audience, right? So I have to create these experiences in them. And when I asked myself who was my audience, I always thought back home. Because even though I left Saipan, sorry.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry. I'm thinking it's home. Like, like UOG was an important time in my life, but I left home. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to do that. I carried it with me, though, when I was doing my stories. So writing Picking Doni was part of remembering home and connecting back home, even though I lived in Guam, which became my second home, which became like a second home to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the outcome? Oh, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to ask that, if I wanted us to talk about that, because I'm really hoping these plays will be staged in Saipan, and I don't want to give it away. So maybe we should just say, if you want to find out what happens to AD in Picking Doni, you're going to have to find somebody to produce
if anybody
the play
wants
here.
to produce all my work, Leo Pangilinan from the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, who wants to secure a NDA, what's a ANA or like a NEH grant. Shout out to Leo Pangilinan.
No pressure. Okay. But that's
a lot of pressure from me, though. Not from her.
Let's talk about another play, An Act to Save a Marriage, about the Costros.
Yeah.
And I would say that one of the things I found in reading your plays is that they seem, as you said, very relatable. Like reading and listening to the Costros have this conversation, I can see it. And yes, I can totally see a person acting like that. What is this about?
So An Act to Save a Marriage is literally a one-act play where this wife is giving her husband essentially one last chance to save this marriage. So they're a middle-aged couple. They live in, I think they live in San Vicente. I forget at this point, right? It's been a while since I wrote it. It's been a while since it was staged. But they live in San Vicente, and this wife is ready to go. She's ready. She's got the papers to divorce set aside, but she hasn't signed it, and she hasn't even brought it up. So she's got one chance, and he's screwing this up, right? He's screwing this up. They have a fight, and it shouldn't be funny, but it's funny to us, right? It's a comedy. Yeah, that's what that's about. It's one act to save a marriage, and they have an argument on stage.
And I love how you leave it hanging. Do they get divorced, or do they stick together? Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, you gotta go we gotta produce it, so that people can find out.
One of your plays was, and I forget which one it was about more of a younger couple. So it was a little bit more modern.
Thick Skin.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
You know what? I didn't send that to you, did I?
No, you did, because I read it.
I did. Okay.
Yes.
Thick Skin.
Yeah. What inspired? What is it about, and what sparked this conversation?
A real argument I had with my partner. Shout out to Mary. Yeah, you know what? I mean, look, man. You ever have that conversation with your girlfriend? I don't know if you ever had a girlfriend, Kat. But like, you ever have the conversation like in the car, and your girlfriend's, oh man, she's gonna kill me. She's gonna kill me. But anyway, you're on your way,
Don't
right?
Get killed.
Yeah, I'm
Don't
trying
get
not
killed
to.
in this interview.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can't write a play if I get killed.
Yeah.
So you're driving, right? And then there you are in the car, and like your girlfriend's a little hungry. And so you're on a ticker now, because if you don't get to a restaurant in the next 15 minutes,
it becomes hangry.
Yeah, you're about to fight,
yeah.
Right? So you have to you ask her, you say, "Babe, where would you like to go?" And then she hits you with the classic ones.
I don't know, where do you want to go?
Yeah, anywhere. No, she hits you with something like anywhere. I don't care. It's fine. Choose anywhere you want. And then you'll say something like, okay, let's go to King's. No, I don't want to go to King's. Hey, let's go to Mosa's. No, I don't want to go to Mosa's. Do you want to go to Wendy? And then it becomes a full-blown fight. And then you get into the restaurant. And then it's like you guys are all irritated. I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
And the food isn't enjoyable anymore because the atmosphere is bad.
I'm not saying it happened to me.
No,
it happened to a
course
friend,
not.
though.
Yeah, it happened to a friend.
Yeah, a friend told me about it. I heard this is all hearsay.
Okay.
not speaking from experience.
So that's a little modern, a modern version. What about the one, I didn't get a chance to read the one, Adai Tsalan, but you mentioned it's, not to say you have a favorite child, but yeah, it's one you really enjoyed writing.
Yeah.
Adai Tsalan.
Adai Tsalan.
Apa I Adai Tsalan.
Watch the road, or be careful on the road. That of all the ones that I wrote, I think this has maybe the most interesting backstory. Like, let me just tell the backstory.
Yes.
The University of Guam has a special class for directing for students, and just like my playwriting class, right? And they have a directing class where students from the theater program take this class, and at the end, instead of a final exam, you direct the play.
Oh, okay.
So you spend that entire semester preparing to direct the play, and you hold the auditions, and you schedule the rehearsals, and you get a stage manager. There's a stage managing class. Their job is to work with you. And yeah, so, you know, I submitted a play for these guys to produce if they wanted to. They had a call for plays. They had a call for scripts. I submitted this, but sorry, you know what? I'm mixing up my own stories now. But no, I didn't send a Adai Tsalan to the directors to direct. I sent an Act to Save a Marriage to the directors. So
okay.
So the student directors debuted an Act to Save a Marriage. However, I was also an actor in one of the plays for a student director. Okay. Now, while I was going to rehearsal, I had an uncle who died.
Oh.
Right? And we weren't very close. But of course, I'm going to go to the Lasodzu. I get to the Lasodzu, and I find out my uncle left behind 2 very young children. Right. And I see these kids in church, and it breaks my heart. You know, I'm like, these poor kids. So I'm carrying that with me, right? It really affected me because, like, the whole time I was in Guam, I was making the assumption I'm coming home. But he died suddenly. You know, well, not suddenly per se. You know, he had an illness, and you know, there was a measure of uncertainty of whether he was going to live or whether he was going to die. But it just proved to me that, like, actually, I'm over here in Guam taking this all for granted. I could die crossing the street tomorrow, and I'm never going to see my parents again. And the last thing I'll be remembering is me stressing out over final exams and this and that, and you know, I promised Dad I'll get the degree done in this time, and it's taking longer, and I'm over here like, what am I really doing? I'm wasting a lot of time, right? And you don't know, nobody's life is guaranteed. And I was like, dang, you know, why am I having this existential crisis in the middle of this play? You know, okay, I'm trying to go back and focus, and the focus is not coming. Right, I have a particularly hard rehearsal that day, and I was like, guys, I need 5. Give me 5. I was telling the director, man, give me 5. I need 5. I can't concentrate right now on whatever the rehearsals. Now, it turns out that production was amazing. We had a great time. The whole crew had this wonderful synergy. At least I remember it this way. And I loved it, and when it was done and we had the cast party, I said, oh, man. Dang, what am I going to do now? You know, it's like, you know, where you have that feeling where, like, you finish watching a movie and you're like, I wish I could live in that movie. I wish I could not stop this feeling that I currently have. That's what I had when I was finishing that one student directed play, or that whole session. Because there were like 5 directors, and they had like 5 different stories that night on a stage. So much fun. So much fun. So I had that, right? I didn't want the theater experience to end. Okay? Now, also, at the same time, I'm having my little existential crisis about I might die tomorrow, because there's no guarantee that I'll live, right? There's no one is guaranteed tomorrow. All you have is right now. I'm having that little experience, and I feel guilty because on Saipan, I left behind all my siblings, and we're a very close family. I'm the oldest sibling. I'm the oldest child of 5 kids. Okay, you know, like, I have a brother who's what, 5, 6 years younger than me or something like that. When I left, he was about to start high school, and then he had a hard time. He had a hard time in high school. Nobody there to guide him.
And you weren't there, yeah.
Yeah, I felt bad.
Yeah.
I had guidance, and this kid, I could see, he just wanted an older brother, and I wasn't there. Not just that, he's not my youngest sibling, by the way. I have a brother I'm 19 years older than. An entire 19 years older than this kid. And, what's it called? The age gap is so large that I look like his dad.
It's like a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to work at Saipan Southern High School.
Yeah.
Me and the kid walked through the hallway.
Yeah.
And the students are like, Mister, we saw your son. I'm like, no, bro. That's my kid. That's my brother. So anyway, a fear that I have, right, is that I'll return to Saipan and I will be a stranger to my own brother. And I was like, what do you mean? Right? And here's the final influence that came into making Adai Italan. After the play ended, right, there was this man in Guam who crashed into a power pole. And in Guam, they've had concrete power poles for a very long time. So if you hit that concrete power pole in Guam, you're dead. That's the adios. Say bye, say goodbye. You're not gonna live. You're not living if you hit those Guam power poles. And that's what happened to this dude. Here's the sad thing about the guy. He wasn't even living on Guam any longer. He was visiting his family, and he went spearfishing the night before, and he was just so tired. I don't think they found alcohol in his system. Just fell asleep behind the wheel of his car and hit the power pole. He had every intention to go back to the States. And now his family has to plan a funeral. And I had all these things going on inside me. And the thing about me and my creative writing is that there's some voice inside me that really wants to speak. It won't shut up. It's annoying. It won't stop until I write, until I get what I want to say out onto a paper. So that's what happened. And the result was Adai Italan. And I've not even described what Adai Italan is. Right. But you can see all the influences there already. And remember I said that my mentor told me, if it's not real to you, it's not real to the reader. And if it's not real to the reader, there's no theater. So, I took all of that and I tried to make it as real as possible. Adai Italan is about these two brothers. One always leaves. He never stays in the Marianas. They're a family, right? And then when the younger brother was living in Saipan, the older brother moved to Guam. When the younger brother moved to Guam, the older brother moved back to Saipan and then finally out of the Marianas. Okay? So this younger brother kind of learns to live without his older brother. All right? And then he comes back. The older brother comes back and they have a fight about it. And at the end of the play, how should I say? There's a big change, in their relationship, but the older brother still has to go. The older brother still has to go. That's why it's called Adai Italan, because the younger brother said, be careful out there, be careful. Adai Italan means watch yourself on the road, or be careful on the road, or whatever it is you want to say. So he tells his brother Adai Italan, and they've had a moment. That's what that play is about.
How do you feel you have evolved as a playwright from Picking Doni to your latest play?
So the latest play was Creating the Native? No. Yeah, Creating the Native was the latest one. And it's been a while since I wrote, to be honest.
How do you feel your craft has evolved, if at all?
Yeah, I think if you read Picking Doni, it's clear I don't have a command of my characters or the space, or there's a lack of a real coherent message, or there is a message there, but I was not skilled enough to make it one thing, make it one message that you can share with the audience. It feels like there's a bunch of messages, and if I was better as a younger playwright, I would have tightened it. Whereas something like Creating the Native is tighter. Creating the Native is about this artist. He's about to have his first gallery, and he's nervous. And he meets a critic. A critic comes early to kind of scope it out, because a critic wants to purchase paintings to sell, to resell to people in the States, because this artist is a Chamorro artist and he's making Chamorro art, Chamorro visual art, and so there's a market for that, right? Critic wants to buy it, but when the critic sees the unfinished kind of centerpiece, critic's unimpressed. And so the artist then has a dialogue on stage with the centerpiece picture.
Oh, wow.
So the picture kind of has a conversation now. And the picture wants to get sold, so he's like, just make it cheap. Come on, like, give them what they want. And then so the critic has to explain why I can't just give them what they want. I have to give them what is my truth. So that's the conflict.
Would you say there is like a common theme or message that carries across your plays?
I don't know about a common message, but there's a definitely like, it's clear that my culture is very important to me. You know, it takes center stage in all my plays. That, my plays are rooted in the Chamorro culture. My plays are rooted in the Marianas. And I write for us. I don't really write for people that have never been around here. The jokes that I tell are jokes for people here and in Guam, right? People here and in Guam. And the thing is though, although it's seen through my Chamorro perspective, you can use your Chamorro perspective to connect to something wider, and because we all have some sort of culture within us, yeah? So my plays, although they're Chamorro, they're supposed to like speak to the greater humanity, right? Like, the thing about us that makes us human is just that I center being Chamorro in my plays, or Chamorro-ness, my version of what Chamorro-ness is. Mm-hmm. That's common throughout all the plays, all right?
How do you feel you have been affected as a person in your playwright journey? Has it changed you as a person?
I don't know. I feel like when I change my voice, I don't know, my voice changes. I have to think about that and reflect on what my artist's voice has become, or, because I write so close to life. Writing is like a tool of discovery for me in a lot of ways, I use it to explore the way I'm feeling, or explore or embody kind of issues that I might see happening. So if you look at creating the native was almost like this response to the kinds of things that I was seeing in Guam, where I feel like in some aspects of life on that island, being Chamorro is attacked, actually. And people in Guam are doing a lot to revive the Chamorro culture on their island, but there's a lot where the Chamorro culture comes under attack, or people have this idea of real stereotypes of what being Chamorro are, and they're not good stereotypes a lot of the time, right? Like, there's like, although there is a lot of drug use on the island, like, for people to just assume that all of them are Chamorro, I took issue with that. Or that all the crimes are committed by certain cultural groups. Mm-hmm. Took issue with that. Mm-hmm. And then there were some people in Guam, like, and I saw it within my own classmates, like, their whole view on what being Chamorro was negative, right? Oh. And I took issue with that. And, I worry about it coming here, because in a lot of ways we're starting to change too. So there's a need to preserve what we have, and not just preserve, but also appreciate who we are. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to be what our culture is, and it's okay to love our roots, and nothing wrong with that, and people should do that,
In your perspective, what is the culture?
What is the culture?
Who are we?
Who are we? When, there's this quote by Robert Underwood, like, being Chamorro is simple until you start asking simple questions about Chamorro, being Chamorro. Something like that. I think I butchered it. Sorry, Dr. Underwood. But the Chamorro culture is rooted in this connection to these islands and, our values that we have had for centuries, right? Values of being respect. I really see that our, respect is worshipped. I don't know, almost, it's like you're not Chamorro if you're not respectful. If you're Thai respectful, that's the
worst thing to be.
Yeah, really is.
No respect, yeah.
You have to have that respectful quality, and what we call respect is it's so encompassing of a lot of behaviors. Like, I have to think ahead to be respectful. Being respectful means let's put it in for an example. It's like, how have you, if you have a rosary coming up, how have you set the tables up? Mm-hmm. Is your house set up? Have you watered the cascao to prevent dust from flying up in the air? That's part of it encompasses so much that I think that our conception of respectful is different than what the West might consider respectful, right?
It's the way you do things.
It's like a lot, man. It's hard. Even as I live it, it's hard for me to talk about it, which is maybe why plays work for me, because you can act it out. You can see it, right? Sometimes I don't always have the words for things. Yeah, but you can act it out. You can make it move in a 3D space. To go more into your question about who are we as a people, respect comes as the base. It's the first. It's the start, yeah. And then you have this thing about family, right? And knowing your place in a family, and connecting to your extended family, right? And knowing how to behave as in the role as you're a son, in the role as you're a grandson, or the role as you're a nephew or whatever, right? There's levels to this in a family. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm articulating it well, but when you see a family at work, and again, I'll use a rosary example. When we start setting up for the rosary, it's almost like we're a really well-oiled machine.
Everybody knows their part.
Yeah, without talking, you just get out the car. Everybody goes to their assignment, and it's we worked at this. This took us a little bit of time, but the older generation taught the younger generation what to do around with the roles in the family. I think that those are the two cornerstones of being Chamorro. And you might say that doesn't everybody isn't respect a human value? Isn't family a human value? And it is, yeah, because we're humans. But we do it a particular way, and I think that you start with that, and that's the two big cornerstones, and everything else from there grows.
And a lot of your plays, if not all of them, revolve around those two things:
respect and family. Yeah, pretty much.
So what's on the horizon for you?
Man, there's whispers of doing a Dai Chalan here, and I really hope they come. I really hope they happen.
Oh.
I hope that happens. I hope that takes place. Working that out. If that happens, I want it to be, I don't know if I can be the director. My partner is best friends with the guy who directed it originally.
Oh, okay.
And then also I'm he and I were collaborators. We've collaborated before. And of course, we had to collaborate when he directed this in Guam. His name is Ian Tyron. And my hope is that he comes over. Okay. Also, that play, by the way, Adai Talent was also directed by Troy McVeigh, who's a dean. He's either a dean or an associate dean over at the University of Guam. So I hope they both come. And I hope that they can do this. But when they do it, I want them to cast people from here. I think we have the talent to do it. We have the people who are already there. I think they can just call up an MCS alum if there are people from the community who are too shy. Or they can develop it with the people who have never done it before. But I would really love for it to happen here with the people from here under Ian Tyron's guidance. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing today. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I'm not the only one who has these stories. And I mean, in a perfect world, I would have all the money in the world to go run workshops and go develop this talent, who's for the people around. I know that the Marianas has so many stories to tell, man. And it's important that the different perspectives are represented, because to me, theater is like the only art where the artist is not separated from the art. Where like you have a book, right? The author wrote that book and he lets the book go out into the world. A visual artist creates a painting, creates a sculpture. They let it go out into the world. But in theater, your art is the emotion of your audience, and you get to be there. You are the art. The audience is the art, right? And they're not separate from the actors on stage who create this thing. So theater is like this wonderful communal art where we can all kind of be one thing. For 1 minute, one experience, we can all be one community. And that is the beauty of what real theater is. And I think that it would be really welcome here. And I hope to see that happen one day. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for not only your work, but also for sharing your perspectives into your work today.
Right on. Happy to be here. Call me again if you need me.
We've been chatting today with Andrew Roberto. He is one of the few people from the Marianas writing plays about our community. This has been Marianas Stories. I'm Catherine Perry, and we will see you next month.